of the deeply touching letters, cards, and messages which so many of you have sent my wife and myself. It began, as most royal changes do, discreetly, behind velvet curtains, and shrouded in tradition. The United Kingdom had become accustomed to the image of Queen Camilla by King Charles' side, keeping her chin high at state banquets, waving from the balcony with polished reserve, and carrying out engagements with the decorum expected of a consort. To the outer world, the monarchy appeared stable, even austere. However, the cameras did not show the methodical, purposeful, unraveling that was taking place beyond those castle walls. Whispers started weeks earlier, first among aides, then among royal observers, and eventually in a few high-level political circles. Something was changing, not in years or decades, but in days. King Charles realized that if the monarchy was to continue, it needed to be governed by someone other than himself or Camilla. Camilla battled controversy, public hostility, and palace politics for decades, before claiming a crown that many felt she did not belong to. To her credit, she remained the course. She smiled even as the audience booed. She stood tall when the press labeled her a villain. When Charles eventually came to the throne, she took on the position of queen consort, with the iron resolve that only a seasoned survivor had. However, power borrowed does not equal power acquired. And when legacy knocks, emotion is left behind. With ink still drying on a sealed royal decree, the inconceivable is becoming reality. King Charles has taken a private but irrevocable decision. He has nominated Prince William and Catherine, Princess of Wales, as the monarchy's next rulers. Not someday, not while he's gone, but now. To some, this is an essential act of renewal, a handover from a tired generation to one that is more beloved, contemporary, and connected to the world beyond Buckingham's gates. For others, it is a betrayal, a dethroning, and for one lady in particular, the consequences are nothing short of devastating. Camilla, once crowned in glory with her husband, has been abandoned in silence. No announcement, no procession, the calendar progressively emptied, personnel were moved, and the Queen was no longer in power. What motivated Charles to make this decision? Why now? What will it imply for a monarchy still tormented by Diana's ghost and spurred by the world's fascination with Kate? The solutions are ahead, and, as you'll soon learn, this was never simply about swapping crowns. This was a reckoning. Camilla never saw it coming. In the royal code, succession is sacrosanct. It follows lineages, birthrights, and centuries of tradition. For as long as Britain has had rulers, the line of succession was intended to be untouchable, unbending, indisputable. In an unexpected turn of events, King Charles has rewritten the playbook. It began with a whisper, a single private encounter between Charles and his senior legal advisors at Clarence House. This is not an official briefing. This is not a council of state gathering. A private chat might have long-lasting ramifications. What's the topic? Regency, succession, and the monarchy's immediate future. Charles, who had previously stated that he would govern for as long as duty called, suddenly began questioning his authority to choose a reigning regent, not in the event of death, but at a moment of personal choice. According to royal sources, it was not sickness that prompted the decision. It was reputation. Charles is keenly aware of the rising popular apathy regarding his reign. While he holds the title of king, he has never truly owned the heart of the people. Polls reveal that William and Catherine are now widely regarded as the monarchy's proper face. Charles and Camilla are not young, charming, or universally admired. That difference became more difficult to overlook during a disastrous Commonwealth conference earlier this year, during which Charles allegedly suffered with exhaustion and had to postpone critical engagements. Catherine, who stepped in at the last minute, was pictured controlling the room, shaking hands with heads of state, and even meeting privately with the UN Secretary General. According to one diplomat there, it felt like we were meeting the real monarchs. Back at home, aides saw something else. Crucial papers, formerly inspected solely by Charles, had been secretly shifted to William's office. Budget sign-offs, military briefings, domestic charity, it was all occurring gradually, but the pattern was clear. A subtle shift of power was taking place. But how? Isn't the line of succession legally protected? This is where the royal gray area begins. While Parliament determines who will inherit the throne, the reigning monarch is responsible for the monarchy's day-to-day operations, including engagements, delegations, and regency. In other words, Charles did not have to abdicate in order to cede power. All he had to do was sign a private decree appointing Prince William and Princess Catherine as formal regents in trust, able to act on his behalf in all royal issues, and this is exactly what he did. The signed instruction, which has not yet been made public, has apparently already been implemented internally. Buckingham Palace staff now follow what some refer to as the Cambridge Directive. Charles retains the throne in name, but when it comes to decision-making, the monarchy is already under new leadership. One senior advisor, commenting on the condition of anonymity, stated bluntly, "King Charles did not need Parliament to transmit the torch. He only needed a pen, a will, and a purpose. And now he has a lot. Among the reasons: mounting controversies involving Camilla's extended family, strained relations with Catherine behind closed doors, and the growing influence of Princess Anne, who supposedly agreed with William in pressing her brother to protect the monarchy from becoming irrelevant. It was not a choice taken overnight. Charles, by all accounts, struggled with it, but in the end, he opted to protect the crown's future, even if it meant excluding his wife, and he accomplished it in the only manner a king could, quietly, lawfully, and without public notice. As of now, there has been no ceremonial ceremony, broadcast address, or royal edict read from a palace balcony. But the monarchy's machinery has already moved. William and Catherine now hold the steering wheel, and Camilla? She wasn't even informed that they were receiving the keys, because this was not simply a handoff. It was a quiet coup. The Queen Consort was left fully in the dark. Camilla had a brief, brilliant moment where she thought she had won. After decades in the shadows, years of being branded as the culprit in Diana's tragedy, and every hectic staff bringing in loyalists from her time as Duchess of Cornwall, she began as Queen Consort, not simply a mistress, not simply a pal. A crowned individual stands next to a king. For her, it was the ultimate validation. The people may complain, the tabloids might moan, but she'd made it. Camilla wasted little time in taking up the position. She took on dozens of patrons. She reformed some of the Queen's domestic staff, bringing in loyalists from her time as Duchess of Cornwall. She began to involve herself in ceremonial arrangements, state visits, and even advisory meetings with Charles. Some commentators speculated that she was attempting to build her legacy, rather than just doing her duties. She frequently insisted on being addressed simply as the Queen, omitting the consort in subtle ways, particularly in communications and charitable events. Courtiers whispered that Camilla had become overconfident, potentially to an unhealthy degree. One assistant said that she had argued with Catherine about public appearances, asking that seniority be respected, despite the fact that the public consistently preferred Kate. Camilla saw herself on the royal peak, planting her flag. She was no longer in Diana's shadow. According to a hacked text, she assured a close friend that she had earned every pearl in that crown. However, the truth was considerably more brittle than she understood. While Camilla relished the outward appearance of authority, the public's approval of her reign was limited at best. Polls revealed that younger generations' support for the monarchy fell as soon as she rose to prominence. Social media, particularly among Diana's millennial and Gen Z supporters, was merciless, ridiculing her clothing, doubting her influence, and comparing every move she made to Princess Kate's elegance. Even foreign leaders, while friendly in person, frequently avoided Camilla in official portraits or positioned Kate at the center of news conferences. Diplomats observed it, so did the journalists. But the most incriminating warning came from inside the palace gates. According to many insiders, Camilla began seeking briefing packets that were no longer being supplied. Invitations that had previously landed in her inbox were now routed to Catherine. Foreign dignitaries who arranged tea with the Queen were informed that Her Majesty's availability was limited. However, the Princess of Wales was willing to accommodate them. The illusion was fracturing. Camilla saw them as scheduling errors. Perhaps Charles had neglected to include her. Perhaps the staff committed clerical mistakes. However, the fact was considerably more calculated. Her power was being eroded piece by piece behind her back, and without a single public statement. The Queen Consort seemed to be simply Queen by title, but Catherine discreetly established herself as the face, voice, and soul of the contemporary monarchy. Camilla wore the crown, but Catherine captured the hearts of the people. In the domain of monarchy, love is frequently more important than authority. Camilla continued to stroll the hallways with her head held high, smiled for cameras, and delivered lectures on the importance of literature and women's health. However, behind closed doors, employees began to detect her anger. She asked more questions. She double-checked her itinerary. She appeared uneasy. Camilla knew deep within. She'd spent her entire life pursuing a crown, but it had never really been hers, and suddenly she could feel it slide through her gloved fingers. There has been no major announcement. There is no television address. There is no royal parade through the streets of London. But those who pay close attention, those within the palace and the halls of power, know one thing for certain. William and Catherine have already begun reigning. Not in the usual sense. They have not been crowned. The throne inside the abbey has remained unchanged. Charles still signs state documents. However, the genuine levers of power are gradually being handed to the Prince and Princess of Wales. It began with tiny adjustments. Courtiards who formerly informed King Charles now report directly to William. Senior workers who arranged Camilla's events are now part of Catherine's new extended team. Budgets that were formerly approved off by Clarence House are now evaluated in Kensington. In a span of months, the monarchy's invisible superstructure has been transformed, from Charles and Camilla to William and Kate. What's more astonishing is that the public hasn't even been informed, because they do not need to be. They already know. At a recent climate meeting in Germany, William, not Charles, gave the main presentation to a room full of international leaders. Catherine, not Camilla, sat alongside first ladies and female heads of state, participating in diplomatic discussion with seamless grace. The cameras caught it, the press devoured it. The next day's headlines made no mention of Charles or Camilla. The world had turned its attention to a different pair. A younger, more stable and loving duo. A similar trend has emerged within the United Kingdom. Catherine now oversees the palace's family and child development activities with full ministerial support, a position historically held by the Queen Consort. William has also been cited chairing royal advisory sessions, which are traditionally reserved for the sitting king. Staff no longer cringe at this. They anticipate it. It is not only ceremonial, it is structural. According to royal biographers, it is unparalleled in contemporary history for a king to delegate so much authority without abdicating. But Charles, they feel, is attempting to have it both ways. Keep the crown in name while ensuring the monarchy's long-term survival through a stealth transition. A handover by deed rather than announcement. What about the British public? They are embracing it. Polls show an increase in support for the monarchy, but only when connected with William and Catherine. The dimension of Camilla continues to result in a dramatic reduction in popularity, and Charles has failed to connect with younger generations. In contrast, Kate and William's popularity has become a stabilizing influence, particularly in a post-Brexit, post-pandemic Britain looking for optimism and authenticity. Even the royal protocol is changing to accommodate them. During state visits, embassies now provide two sets of briefings, one for the king and another, frequently more comprehensive, for the Welsh. Behind the scenes, international dignitaries have begun booking trips to Kensington Palace before Buckingham, well aware that this is where the actual choices are being made. The public continues to believe that Charles and Camilla are in charge. However, those who pay attentively may see that William and Catherine are already wearing the crown, albeit without the coronet. This is not a ceremonial trial. This is not training. It is not symbolic. It is power, real, recognizable, and already in action. Although Charles retains the title of king and Camilla remains queen consort, they no longer lead the kingdom. They are occupying time because history has already turned a page. The following chapter finds William and Catherine on the throne, in everything but name. Long before Catherine donned a tiara, William muttered vows at the altar, and the world addressed her as Her Royal Highness. Another lady redefined what royalty could look like. She was known as the People's Princess. She was also a mother, a rebel, a traditionalist's heartbreaker. Even in death, Diana Spencer remained in the throne room. Her shadow hovered over all royal photographs. Charles' cool public appearances, Camilla gave a strange smile. Diana was never deleted, only silenced, but not for long. As Catherine takes control, Diana's ghost returns to life. Because for millions of people in Britain and throughout the world, this moment seems like poetic justice. Not simply a transfer of power, but a correction to history. The crown may have bypassed Diana, but it was always intended to rest on a woman like her. Catherine represents the continuance of Diana's elegance, compassion, and quiet resistance. The analogy is tough to overlook. Kate, like Diana, exudes elegance without being remote. She smiled as if she meant it. She cuddles kids without asking for permission. Her causes are real, her efforts steady, and her demeanor captivating. Unlike Camilla, who has battled to get respect, Kate elicits admiration. And even the monarchy is aware of this. According to royal advisers, Catherine is the stabilizing anchor the crown needs, and the popular reaction to her visits frequently outnumbers that of Charles and Camilla combined. People chant her name. The children grasp for her hand. Even longtime monarchy skeptics concede that Kate feels like royalty chosen by the public. Behind the scenes, William is reported to be highly aware of the symbolism involved. According to palace sources, Charles' choice to secretly elevate William and Kate was both political and personal. William, still horrified by the public unraveling of his mother's life, has promised that the institution would never fail another woman he loves. As authority passed from his father to him and Camilla to Catherine, Diana's voice resonated in every choice. She is not forgotten, she's the cause. Social media has only heightened the feeling. Viral videos show Diana and Catherine side by side, cradling infants outside the hospital wing, soothing sad relatives, and navigating the minefield of public criticism with steadfast grace. One popular tweet stated, "She didn't live to wear the crown. However, her daughter-in-law will." And Camilla, she is aware that the tide has turned. According to reports, she is becoming increasingly agitated by the constant parallels, and sources claim she once prohibited a staff member from discussing Diana during a meeting. But it's useless. The monarchy may attempt to create its own account of events, but the people have already chosen their queen. The one who continues Diana's legacy quietly and powerfully, rather than the one who was crowned alongside Charles. In every sense, this was always intended for Kate. She did not claw her way to the throne. She did not demand a crown. She earned it by dedication, quiet, and the unwavering support of a bereaved country that never stopped adoring Diana, and now finds her reflection in the Princess of Wales. So when Charles delegated authority to William and Catherine, he was not just appointing heirs. He was restoring Diana's dream, which she had never realized. In doing so, he assured that Camilla's brief, fragile, and unwelcome rule would not just end. It was being replaced by the Lady Diana would have proudly addressed as her daughter. Camilla had tightened her grip on power for years. She thought she had earned her place with every pearl, curtsy, and title. She withstood the controversy, the gossip, and Diana's ghosts. She stood with Charles despite public contempt and private illness. So when she was crowned queen consort, she felt it as a due recompense rather than a gift. However, power within the royal family is not declared. It is given and readily taken away. Camilla's collapse did not occur in a single instant. It arrived in waves. Her schedule gradually became more manageable. Catherine was now in charge of events she had previously hosted. Palace briefings that she used to get never came. Her attempts to be included in high-level meetings were overlooked, sometimes citing limited seating or private senior consultation. The truth? She was getting marginalized gradually. Then came the moment that made it unmistakable. At a recent royal engagement in Scotland, a place that has traditionally been more welcoming to Camilla than others, the throng waiting outside Balmoral did something shocking. As Catherine left her vehicle, the audience cheered, hoisted their cameras, and yelled her name. But when Camilla walked out only a few minutes later, there was stillness. No boos, no cheers, simply a thick, echoing disinterest. One spectator allegedly commented, "It felt like she was invisible." Camilla was calm inside the palace. According to many sources, Camilla became enraged when she learned of King Charles's classified letter, designating William and Catherine as the monarchy's acting heads. According to one tale, she marched into Charles's study at Clarence House and addressed him immediately. "You promised me the crown. How dare you give it to her?" Charles did not dispute the ruling. He did not argue. He just said, "It's what the country needs." It was a catastrophic blow, not simply Camilla's pride, but also her identity. Everything she had battled for was unraveling. With no official statement, press release, or explanation, only murmurs and chilly shoulders. Behind closed doors, palace staff ceased referring to her as Her Majesty. Staff she trusted started demanding reassignments to Kensington. Camilla allegedly lashed out in frustration. One insider stated she ordered the removal of all Diana photographs from Clarence House. Again, she canceled engagements at many gatherings she had attended on a yearly basis. She stopped accepting calls from longtime charitable partners. And worst of all, she had lost the ear of the one person who used to protect her from the storm, Charles himself. The king had made his decision. He was not reversing it. The royal machine had already moved on. The British press, smelling blood in the water, began to change its tone as well. Headlines that formerly referred to her as a resilient queen now read, "Camilla quietly retreats." Pundits speculated if the queen consort was drawing back owing to health or shame. Even friends in Parliament provided no protection. Nobody was coming to her rescue because, in fact, the crown was never fully hers. She wore it, absolutely, but she never carried the weight of popular affection with her. And now, when William and Catherine ascend without ceremony, Camilla feels more lonely than ever. This was more than simply a step down. It was a quiet exile. A queen was dethroned without a single headline. A lady who has struggled her entire life to be noticed is now being quietly and painstakingly eliminated. And the worst part? It was not done with fury. It was executed with calm, controlled elegance, the type only a future queen like Catherine could provide. There was no spectacular abdication. There will be no broad declaration. No crimson velvet curtain was drawn back with regal grandeur. But make no mistake, the monarchy has changed hands. Behind the regal smiles and official silence, a subtle revolution has occurred. King Charles remains on the throne, but the authority he formerly commanded has shifted deliberately and decisively to Prince William and Princess Catherine. With that move, Queen Camilla's reign came to an unceremonious conclusion. She may still wear the crown. She may still appear alongside Charles at the rare function. But behind the royal gates, everyone knows the truth. Camilla's actual power has been taken away. Her schedule was cleared, her voice softened, and her presence disappeared. Not by scandal or public outrage, but by irrelevance. And that, in royal terms, is the sharpest cut. Meanwhile, William and Catherine go on, not just as heirs, but as leaders, trusted, loved, and empowered. They are already reshaping the monarchy for a new age, making it leaner, more personable, and more connected to the people than it has been in decades. And whether deliberate or not, each step they take feels like a restoration of what Diana lost. A grace, a warm feeling, a link. Camilla's narrative may have concluded with a crown on her head, but it did not include a kingdom that fully welcomed her. She sought legality, struggled for recognition, and eventually joined her husband as queen. But in the end, her authority was always on loan. Now, it has been regained. The British monarchy has begun a new chapter, one marked not by controversy or hostility, but by calm correction. William and Kate did not take the crown away from Camilla. They did not have to. The people picked them. Charles recognized them. When the palace sensed the winds of change, it simply followed. Camilla now observes from the sidelines her place safe in name, but not in history. Because the tale of this royal transition will not revolve around the lady who briefly wore the crown. It will be about the queen that the world has been waiting for, and the future she has already begun to create.